Hi, my name's Josh. Welcome back to the library at Hermit Street, where I've trimmed like an inch off my beard so that I look marginally less insane. Still have all this, so no less a hairy burnout and a freak, but beard's a little trimmed up. So this week we're talking about. Um, I'm revisiting a series I touched on before in the brief time we've been together. I read the rest of the currently out volumes, and I just kind of want to talk about them. The series is Tower Dungeon by Tsutomu Nihei. Uh, so we're going to be. I think I talked about Volume One on a previous episode. This time we're going to be talking about Volume Two, Volume Three, and Volume Four. Volume Four is my favorite of the lot, but we're going to talk about all three. So when I talked about it last time, I think I had talked about how the art's gorgeous. That has not changed. The story's a little generic, and that also mostly hasn't changed. We'll get into what the difference is in a bit, but Nihei's art remains uh, just incredibly good. Super atmospheric, great designs, character designs, character designs. It gets a little like um, he introduces these excavation guild ladies, and it gets a little bit. I feel like Nihei's trying different things, and one of those things he's trying is that kind of poorly done shonen will they or won't they, where the main character has like a close companion who's kind of mean to him, um, and can also read his mind. That comes up later. Um, and then they have a little bit of like a will they won't they thing going on, bickering and bantering and stuff like that. Slowly coming to respect each other. You know the tropes. So there's that, and then he also introduces these excavator guild ladies who are all like how to put this coarse and forthright and muscular and clearly like the one that takes an interest in the main character is a little bit of a muscle mommy, and it feels like Nihei is drawing to his tastes a little bit, let's say. And it's handled in a very like there's more nuanced rom-com stuff elsewhere in manga. This is not it. Likable character, like likable. The Excavator Guild ends up being pretty likable just because they're fairly down to earth characters and they have personalities. And part of the problem with the main series is that we have main character who's like very earnest, strong farm boy type. The mage girl is mean, and the archer guy is level headed. Not, cold and aloof. That usually, like, he's not Sasuke. He's not, whoever the Sasuke is in Jujutsu Kaisen. Um, it's not that archetype, but it's, the like, oh, here's the level headed one, here's the earnest main character, and here's the mean girl, who's the most powerful of them all. And that's the dynamic. It's not wholly original. That kind of gets back to the thing I was saying about Tower Dungeon, where it's like story's pretty generic. Uh, they start introducing some semi-interesting wrinkles, though. One of which is serial killer who's a Dracomorph, turns into a dragon. Um, and just it's there's some interesting storytelling choices. One of which is like, oh, there's this famed Marquis who's a Dracomorph and a serial killer, and everyone knows it, and nobody like the royal soldiers don't like him. Like it's very unclear why he keeps getting away with it, other than being some sort of nobility and a Dracomorph. And maybe that's the answer. Maybe that's the commentary they're trying to do is you can get away with being like attacking people and eating them if you're the right social class slash can turn into a dragon. um so that's an interesting wrinkle. They introduced this like another Dracomorph who's a supposedly this like mighty hero, and you think they set up this thing where it's like, oh, she's gonna solo the dungeon, and she just gets wrecked immediately. And it both underline, I think it's meant to underline that like, oh no, this tower, there's no easy way up the tower dungeon. Um, but it also like she gets like impaled, and then like the next scene or whatever is like, yeah, but she's a Dracomorph, she'll be fine. Like it's very if you ever watched the old G.I. Joe animated movie, originally they were going to kill Duke. He takes a snake to the heart at one point, and then because of the fallout of the Transformers movie, where they killed off Optimus Prime and kids were and traumatized a generation, uh, they throw in some ADR towards the end of the movie, like, "Oh, Duke's out of his coma." Um, it felt a little bit like that, where it's like this Dracomorph heroine gets destroyed, and then they kind of add like a note where it's like, ah, no, she's fine. It's like my immersion, uh, my immersion left me a little bit. Um, Volume 3 introduces some royal soldiers who are kind of like just fed up with being fed into the meat grinder of the dungeon, and that also ends up being kind of like an interesting plot point. And then uh and this is all, if you haven't noticed, this is a very spoiler heavy episode, but yeah, volume 3 A introduces that sorry, I know it's always fascinating watching me read books, but like this is what I'm talking about a little bit, where it's like the excavator gals are, I don't know if creator service a little bit. Um, this is, I think clearly the guy's into some stuff. Um, Relatively harmless as these things go, but still. Anyway, what was I talking about? Some royal soldiers get um, fed up with our heroes, being sent on this mission, and they're basically trying to jump their claim, being like, oh, okay, well, we're gonna torture you guys for information, and then we're gonna take the credit for saving the princess. Um, and then what happens is like the main character throws a brick and takes one of the guy's faces off. Uh, yeah, I don't think I should. I think that's probably the safest bit I can show you, where it's just like a blur. Um, yeah, guy's face got taken off by a thrown brick. Because it turns out the main character is not just farm boy strong; he's super strong, and there's plot reasons for that, and lore starts unfurling. Um, so volume 3 is where like the plot starts to pick up a little bit. Still not terribly interesting. Some revelations about the main character's lineage that even just me saying there's some revelations about the main character's lineage probably points you in the direction of like I think you can guess in a story about, royal kingdoms what maybe the farm boy's secret is. Uh, but all that brings us to this bit of terrific, Volume 4. Volume 4 almost acts like a soft, like, let's see, because I'm doing this. I'm watching my screen, so I'm having to do this like in a mirror. These three here are the main characters so far. These the This is surprisingly hard to coordinate. Okay. The rest of this gang here, including these fantastic mouse characters, um, they get introduced to this volume, and uh, it's a little bit of a. I was kind of hoping it was more of a soft reboot, where it's like, oh no, we're just gonna follow these instead of the boring main three. We're gonna follow this like more eclectic, more interesting party. So you have a scholarly type, and like the other characters are like, oh man, he has like some sort of like he's kind of useless so far in fights, but like maybe he has some like secret power that he's keeping in reserve. Um, and the fact that it's a is great. They run into a what I can only call like a vengeful version of a guy riding a chocobo. Like this weird mix. It's this old guy. He's wearing like a executioner's hood with goggles, and it turns out that he's tracking and trying and in the dungeon to kill that serial killer Marquis Dragon guy I was talking about earlier. So he's stockpiled all these like one-use magical items, and he keeps having to use them to save the party. And he's got like this jet black chocobo thing that he rides. It's great. Um, Looks a lot like Lord Yupa from Nausicaa. There's this lady knight who has a very weird secret that is not explained in this volume. And then there's this mouse ranger and her strong but silent, fully plate armored mouse bodyguard. Um, and the mouse ranger is like the mouse ranger is like the most interesting character we've met so far because she just again very earnest but keeps putting her foot in her mouth. Like she says to the scholarly Dracomorph guy, like, "Oh, you must not get seasick because you're getting seasick because you probably fly everywhere." He's like, "Oh, I don't. I am missing a wing, so I can't fly." She's like, "I keep putting my foot in my mouth." Very like she has like a very like Midwestern, uh, straight shooter, very polite, is intends no harm and is keeps sticking her foot in her mouth and trying to make the best of it. Uh, so the most of the book follows that party, and it's like 300% more interesting than the main three so far. Um, and then they get into, and this is again, like I keep saying, this is a spoiler heavy episode. Um, I don't know if Nihei played Heroes of Might and Magic 2. I don't know if any of you have. My cousin introduced me to it back in the day. There is a class in that game, the Necromancer, which is also the main villain, the big bad evil guy so far is the Necromancer in Tower Dungeon. He's the one who kidnapped the princess, etc., etc. Um, the Necromancer in Heroes of Might and Magic 2 is completely broken. You can just bend the game over your knee with it because at a certain point early on, pardon me, at a certain point early on, you get necromantic ability. Any battle you fight in the game, you bring back percentage of your enemy combatants as your skeleton army automatically. Like you don't, it doesn't cost anything. It's just it starts off as like a few, and then the more you build up that ability, the more and more skeletons you're bringing back from every single fight. So you end up with, and it's not that skeletons are strong, but you end up with like uh, teeming masses of soldiers compared to everybody else, and you steamroll the rest of the game pretty easily. Again, I don't know if Nihei Sensei played that game or was familiar with it when he does what he does in Volume 4, but he takes it to another level, and it is one of the most clever, like, oh, that's a really smart use of that power and some other stuff in the dungeon to make a real rough situation for our heroes. uh, so yeah, Volume 4, I don't know if you could start with it. Maybe it's a little bit of a soft reboot. I think the only thing you would run into at the end is like characters from the previous 3 volumes show up and you're meant to know who they are. Even though it's mostly following a cast of new characters. Um, but yeah, it's Volume 4 turned me like I was enjoying the series for the art. And Volume 4 is when I have started enjoying the series for itself, and I'm excited to see what happens next. Um, so yeah, that is my revisitation of Tower Dungeon 1, 2, and or 4, 2, and 3. Uh, can't recommend them enough. There's there actually is one other thing I want to show off in Volume 4 that I thought was fantastic. Oh, here's the Lord Yupa guy, Goth Yupa. um, but there's one panel sequence in particular. Yeah, there's the serial killer Dracomorph just eating a guy who, oh my god, he has my hair. Um, that that man has the same hair I have. Yeah, but he gets et, and you never see him again. Oh, here's the panel sequence I wanted to show you guys. So this sequence of the mouse archer loosing an arrow and it going through that skeleton's head, um, that is just perfect comics. That is just choice sequential art. Just the way, you get her loosing, you see where the arrow went, the way the hood, like again, this is hard to do, but like the momentum, the eye line, we call it, the eye line of following the arrow into the head and the little like curvature of the hood to show the impact. Oh, so good. So good. God, I love comics. But yeah, that is Tower Dungeon. That wraps things up for me here. I will see you for the next one. Thank you as always for joining me. And I don't know how the weather is where you are while you're listening to this, but today we had a false spring, and or today we had a beautiful spring. I'll revise that. Today we had a beautiful spring day. Some people were like, "Oh, it's a false spring," but as my old pappy used to say, even a false spring's still a nice day. So that that bit of wisdom I will leave you on, and see you next time.